All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Khouri, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. As an advisor, I talk to my clients about many different parts of their lives. And a big part of that, of course, is financial. An even bigger part is personal. And as we go through what a person's goals are and what they're trying to achieve, there are things that hold them back. There are things that are holding them back that we talk about, but of course, it really helps to talk to a professional and to have a professional, someone that does this all the time, which is why today I've invited Jayne Robinson, who is a transformational coach and the founder of JR Coaching, to be with us here today. Jayne, thank you so much for joining.
Michael, thank you so much for having me.
And I just want to tell everyone that this is the second time we do this recording. We did it last week, and after an amazing 30, 40 minutes, I figured out that I hadn't pressed the record button, which, it's literally the first time it happens in 5 years. So I was, A, not just embarrassed, but B, it was like, wow, it was such a good episode as well. It was so good, but only you and me heard it. So let's see if we can try to duplicate it somehow today.
I think today will be even better, Michael.
Hopefully. Am I right in saying that there are, when someone's trying to either A, pursue something or just trying to work out what they want in life, there are things holding them back which are very obvious, but there are things that they really don't realize are there.
Yes, absolutely. There are many different factors, but there are certainly some flavors or some themes that, generally speaking, keep recurring. And it's only when there's a certain amount of discomfort or they're not getting to where they want to be that this becomes apparent. And then that's when the aha moment goes off, or the light bulb. I was just having this conversation with someone yesterday, actually. And he was saying that our conversation had sparked an awareness that his inner critic was running the show and was stopping him from being able to get the promotion he wanted and drive, forward the business in the way that he wanted to. And it was from that conversation, he said he kind of knew it was there, but wasn't aware how much it was in the driver's seat. So there's absolutely many different themes underneath that, but confidence, courage to do it, the lack of or worry about security and safety, they are just some of the themes that stop people, for sure, Michael.
Yeah, and also when we are, I think when you ask someone, or when someone asks themselves, look, what's holding me back, what's stopping me, am I right in saying that we like to convince ourselves that it's something when really it's something completely different? Like we in a way we lean towards the obvious or the easy excuse in a way. Instead of just really either A, admitting what it really is, or B, not even realizing and subconsciously just ignoring it.
100%. Yeah, and that's for many reasons, because typically speaking, to look at ourselves and look within, it's uncomfortable, it's difficult, and it's not always apparent of what the real driver is deep beneath. And another area that holds people back is not necessarily their lack of desire, but the way that they try to meet their emotional needs. So many people sabotage their efforts, not because they're weak, but because their sabotage or the way that they're handling the situation actually meets a real emotional need, but in the wrong way. So the behavior isn't the problem, it's the vehicle that they use to get there, which could be any number of different things. It could be, the fact that they have used a couple of drinks after work to kind of get over the stress that they've been going on, or scrolling through social media, or overworking. And then that's sort of like the theme of, oh, well, if I didn't work so much, then I wouldn't have a problem with my marriage, or I wouldn't be suffering from health issues. But if you actually dig beneath the surface, oftentimes the overworking, particularly with business owners, is, of course, there's a necessity to get the work done and to be able to bring in money and to sustain a successful business. But what I see a lot, and what's very common, is that overworking can often be tied to a sense of certainty or a sense of worth. And we have this sense of significance that if we are working and we're, showing up in the world in a certain way, then that creates our identity, and that identity becomes how we feel about ourselves and whether we're worthy or not.
And as far as trying to fix it ourselves is concerned. Would I be right in saying that there's, how do I explain it? Would I be right in saying that there's like, I think it's probably the common thing I come up against is people just assuming that earning more money is going to fix their problem. For example, if they're trying to do something or they're just not happy and they're like, oh no, if I earn more, it's just going to fix everything. Or if there's more money in the bank, I'll fix everything. Or if I buy that house or buy that car, I'm just going to feel better and everything's going to be okay. Would you say it's like that? Like in a way you probably see it obviously in a different way, but yeah, like you've just given some good examples, and even as you're giving them, I'm hearing them, and I'm like, yes. And in a way, like I think all of us do that, don't we? Like we just go for the easy excuse. It's like, oh, I've got no time. When really, it's not that there's no time. It's just that you're not prioritizing it.
Yeah, definitely. And the way that we're geared socially, we're, constantly comparing ourselves to the Joneses, trying to keep up with them. So it's a very materialistic world that we're based in. And when that's the only metric that you're using, it becomes about the money or, oh, if I have more of this or more of that, then it'll be, everything will be okay. But that's not actually what the problem is. And Tony Robbins talks about the 6 basic human needs that drive our behavior and our choices and how we get our emotional needs met. And he talks about those from the sense that they're derived from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And when we are actually seeking more money, for example, that could be more safety. Well, if I have more money, then, I'll feel safe and everything will be okay. But that's not actually what we want. It's just a short-term vehicle to get to a deeper destination that we haven't yet identified, that's what's really driving our choices or our fears even, because that's typically why people make the choices that they do. It's not generally loss is something that drives people more than desire, unless you have a really big goal in front of you and a whole, I guess, plan mapped out or, real clarity on this is what you want. But a lot of people operate from a loss or moving away from paradigm, which means that they're not clear about where they're headed to. So if they think about the security situation, if I have got more money, then that will equate to more happiness and so on.
Yes, yes. And can you go through those 6 areas? Because we talked about them last week, and when you were going through them, I was like, wow, like it's really interesting when you think about them, because most of us, like if you ask most people, look, what are what areas would you say, the areas of human needs, they'd probably rattle half of them off, maybe 3/4 of them. But it's always the 1 or 2 that people ignore or they don't realize is important, or they probably really undervalue, I should say, more than anything. Like they just underrate it. They're like, I don't, they didn't think it was a big deal, which it is just as important as the others. But if you can just go through them, because I think I've heard it before we talked about it. I think I've come across it here and there, but I think whether someone has heard it or not, it's worth recapping and bringing it to light.
Absolutely. And I really liked how you said last time around, Michael, you were saying it's not like we go through life and go, oh, I want more certainty, so I'm going to behave like this. And it's kind of like, I'll explain what all that means in a minute, but it's people don't relate to the need itself. It's the underlying behavior or comfort that they're receiving from that. So, and I just absolutely love this whole part around human psychology and behavior, because we are so, I guess, wired in terms of our reactions and the way we respond, that these things happen automatically. We don't even necessarily think about them. So I would say a lot of the population behaves in this way, but might not necessarily know why that's happening. And this can cause some of those patterns that I was speaking about before to repeat until they become conscious, and they, the person realizes, oh, hey, this is actually an area that's problematic for me. So hopefully this brings some more light and sheds that light upon it, so that the people listening can reflect and go, oh yeah, that's interesting. That's actually, excuse me, what's driving my choices, not anything else. So if we look at it from that perspective, there are 6 basic human needs, and Tony Robbins splits them up into 2 categories. He talks about the first 4, and then he talks about number 5 and 6 being that the needs of the spirit. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But the first is certainty. So think about this as like safety, it's comfort, it's predictability. This is often why people cling to habits that they have, to routines, to sometimes using substances, could be alcohol, could be food, anything like that, to make us feel good and to give us that familiarity. And it's why some people stay in relationships even though they know it's not necessarily good for their growth or good for their development or where they want, but it's safety. It's like, this is certain. I know that the outcome of this, and therefore it doesn't matter what happens. I would prefer to cling to this than changing something, because that would lead me to be uncertain. And so this is why oftentimes in modes of fear or cycles where clients don't know what to do, I suggest them make a plan. Plan is something that gives you certainty, or it at least gives you the comfort of knowing, okay, I've got a next step. I've got a way out of this, or something that I can aspire to and try. So then the second need is variety. And this is the opposite of certainty, in the sense that this is about, could be about fun, could be about freedom, could be about stimulation, could be about just experiencing something different. Because think about it, if we knew what every single detail of the rest of our life was going to be like, we'd be so bored. We think that it would be cool to know, and that it would be great to know, oh, when am I going to earn X amount of dollars? Or when am I going to marry the love of my life? Or when is, all the things that we want to happen. But realistically, if we knew all of that, we wouldn't really want to get out of bed every day, because it would be so boring and predictable. But this is also, interestingly enough, why people sabotage themselves or their efforts when they're bored, or when they feel restricted, or when they feel boxed in, because too much certainty can lead to feeling that stagnation and the sense of, oh, like this is Groundhog Day, everything's the same. So this is sometimes why, and it sounds crazy, but they might engage in destructive behaviors. Maybe it could be smoking, and it's like, sounds wild, but like someone's smoking a cigarette, it's like they know it's bad for their health, but it's like, I'm living on the edge here a bit. I don't know whether this is going to kill me or not. And of course, people aren't really thinking that on a conscious level when they partake in something like that. But at a deeper level, that's what it could signify to them. And it's also why we need to make sure that we have time for the things that we enjoy, the stuff that lights us up and that does take us out of our, normal everyday life, particularly as business owners or people that are consistently doing the same thing or repetitively trying to get somewhere. It's really important. This is why, a lot of clients I work with go through burnout or challenges like this, because it's too much of the same, and it's not enough of what we're also here, and what is part of our essence in terms of living life as well. So then the third need is significance. And this is about really feeling seen, feeling valued, feeling important. So it could be as simple as someone's dress style, the way that they dress or what they dress in. It could be really outlandish and, create people talking about it and go, oh, wow, like, look what they're wearing. Or it could be really stylish so that, they're seen a certain way and people compliment them. But it also, as I mentioned before, comes back to that overworking as well. So this is why the overworking provides significance, because if they can outperform, the business owner or whoever it might be can outperform their competitors, or if they can even create some sort of social status by it and by the work that they've done, then this is also what gives them that sense of significance, but also can lean to other problems. And this is also why some people need other vices to relax, because they're so wired all the time from working. And then the opposite of that one is love and connection, which is the fourth human need. So this is about a sense of belonging, sense of closeness and intimacy. And Tony Robbins in particular says love and connection, because most people choose connection over love because love's too scary. So he has the two of them there. And this is, in essence, why people sometimes stay in that relationship, or it could be that they use social media for connection. I mean, we're living in a more connected world online than ever before, but the rates of loneliness have increased dramatically. So this is where connection or relationships with other people really comes into play, and it's the opposite of significance, because you're looking for that connection and closeness with another person. And then we go into the fifth and sixth human need, which he talks about in terms of spirit. It's sort of like a lot of people that already have those first four needs met, or even people that are a bit more enlightened or higher on the consciousness level and more self-aware, tend to gravitate towards growth and contribution, in the sense that growth is about becoming more. So this is why people will often feel empty when they're successful. They get to a certain point, it's like, cool, ticked off all the boxes, I've got this life that I thought I wanted. And then they turn around and find, oh, well, now I actually feel like I don't really have a lot because I've spent all my time working, creating this life, and ignoring or neglecting all the other parts of me. So it becomes about finding deeper meaning and then the contribution part. So the contribution is about contributing to something bigger. And this is sometimes why stagnation can lead to that depression or burnout. And so it's important to think about that it could be a micro level, how can I help my neighbor or how can I help my family, to a macro level that maybe the contribution part is what drives the whole business or what the person's mission is in life and how that contributes to it. So going back to the fifth need, which is growth, oftentimes this is more about progress because as human beings, we are not necessarily wired for success and what that feels like, but progress. So anytime I'm working with a client and they're feeling stuck, feeling stagnant, as soon as they start to take action and start to progress and they can see something happen, that is when change happens and when they start to feel good about themselves, because we like to see growth happening as a human.
These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a free 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au. And what I feel like as you're going through this, I'm sure someone, if not everyone, is listening to it thinking, yes, no, I'm acing that area. I'm nailing it. Yes, this one's okay. This one's, and then it's like, oh, actually, no, this one I haven't really done much with. And this one I don't even think about, or in this one I didn't even realize could be an issue. So I think it's really helpful to look at it that way. And I can also imagine that a lot of people if not everyone actually, focuses probably on the one of them that they think is the most important and probably puts 90% of their energy towards that, and thinking that's going to, that's the important one. And really, would I be right in saying that it's important to make sure that there's like an even, healthy spread between them all? Like,
Yeah.
It's like food, I guess, in a way. You can't just eat meat and nothing else, and you can't just eat just vegetables. I mean, some would argue against that, but you know what I mean. You can't eat just vegetables and ignore meat. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that thinking. And look, I wouldn't say a balanced distribution, but I definitely think that there are some differences in terms of how much time you allocate for each, because it is a natural tendency that as humans we will gravitate towards one more than any other. But it is very important, Michael, yes, to go, okay, well, every now and again I'm going to choose something else and push myself out of my comfort zone and go for that, which then creates that sense of balance within, for sure.
Yeah. And also with those last 2 points, I feel like that they're the 2 points. I said this last week as well when we were discussing it, but I feel like growth and contribution, they're the ones that when a person has connection, they've got love, they've got significance, they've got finance, like they're not worried about money. These are the areas that, and when that person feels empty still, that these are the areas which can create that emptiness. And that's where you see a lot of people that are really successful, but then they start doing things like wanting to help the community. Like they do a lot of charity work. They do a lot of mentoring, and even for them personally, they end up doing just some of the most random things, like, I don't know. I mean, some people call it a midlife crisis, but you can call it just something they've never done before, just because they want to grow. They want to, they've achieved what they want to. It's like I've listened to certain podcasts of people talking about, when they were trying to achieve a certain goal, they enjoyed the climb more than when they got up there, than the view itself. Like when they got there, it's like, oh, okay, what now? Whereas they enjoyed the climb. They enjoyed, nailing goals and just getting up there. As hard as it probably was, and difficult, they enjoyed that a lot more than actually getting there. And I think that's where that growth probably comes in the contribution around, doing more for the community and, being of service to others and family and friends and charity work or whatever it may be.
Totally. Yeah. And I believe that's another big driver as a human, is that we are all ultimately here to be of service. And so when we're not and we reach that pinnacle, like I'm just working with a successful entrepreneur at the moment who's sold off his business and is now creating this next chapter of his life. but he wants it to be more meaningful because the first part was like creating the business, making sure he was feeding his family and supporting them and all the rest of it. But now he doesn't have to meet those monetary needs because they are already met. So it's like, well, what does that mean to him? What does that look like? And that is, fundamentally one of the things that comes up regularly is that being of service and being able to design what's next with that. Because like you said, they get to the pinnacle or the top and it's like, well, what's next? And then, like you said before, if that's not, met in some way, or if it's not, there's no plan put in place, then that's when they can start to sabotage again. And those emotional needs, which I mentioned at the beginning, is what holds them back and stops them from then succeeding at that next level as well.
Yeah. And also apart from, of course, having like a coach and having that one-on-one support and having someone look at things from an outsider's perspective, what are some practical strategies or exercises or things that someone can do to look at these things? Like if they feel that there could be something there and that there is something holding them back and they want to look at these areas and sit down maybe with a pen and paper and sit in a room for an hour and just assess things, or whether it's just going for a walk on the beach and just thinking about certain things. What are some strategies? What are some activities, if you want to call it that, or things that people can do even today, just to look at their situation, work out, okay, is there something holding me back, from what I'm trying to achieve?
Yeah, definitely. I would recommend two practices. The first is doing like a 24-hour pattern audit. So if something, a behavior or if something is showing up that you are not comfortable with, or that you're noticing that it's not working for you and you're like, oh, why does that show up? Why am I doing that? Like I was speaking to a gentleman the other day that was saying like he's got his business started and going and everything else is going well in his life, but he keeps having the habit of overindulging in alcohol and doesn't know what's triggering it or how to stop it. So the first strategy is looking at it and observing that pattern. So maybe it's not 24 hours in that situation, it could be a week, but you're pausing the habit or behavior and not engaging in it and noticing what feelings show up, because feelings or emotions are typically what drives where we're going to or what we're doing. So if we're feeling uncomfortable, then we'll reach for one of those habits or behaviors that are not really working for us. And most of society has shall we say, an aversion to dealing with emotions because we're not really taught at school how to manage that or what that looks like. So then the opportunity comes to realize, well, that's the feelings are not the real problem, but actually what is the real problem underneath that, and then replacing the behavior. So don't remove it, because particularly people try to go cold turkey at something, they end up just engaging in it even more, or it leads to something else. So replacing that with something else is really important, and then asking for that help if they need it. So maybe it's the desire for alcohol is actually not about alcohol, it's about connection, and it's about seeking other people in your world. I know that's a regular occurrence. Like I was talking to someone a number of years ago about this, and he mentioned a experiment that was done with rats, and there were two control groups. One had, other rats in the group, and there was some, I think there was like little bottles where they could have access the little drip feed of it at any time they wanted, and there was a drug in there. And the rats that had the connection and had other rats in their little pen didn't touch it. But the rat that was on its own sought out the drug because it was isolated and alone. So oftentimes it's not really about the alcohol, it's about what's missing from that. But until you face what's actually happening, the feelings that are present there, then identifying that problem underneath, you can't really get to the main problem of why it's there, because this is the truth that most people usually avoid. So in removing whatever the habit is, then that helps them to actually see what's going on underneath. And it could be shopping, for example. Like I know a lot of people engage in going, buying some new clothes or whatever when they want to feel better about themselves. But if you take away that the shopping, what is it that you're really trying to feel better about? Is it that you don't feel good enough, or is there a belief underneath there that needs to be addressed? Is it that you don't trust yourself, or that you're worried that you're going to fail, or that you don't really know who you are? By identifying or noticing this pattern, that's how you can get underneath the surface of that. And another really great way that I like to break patterns or to have people think about this differently is the 4 questions to ask themselves. So if you don't feel comfortable with avoiding the habit for a prolonged amount of time, then you can do this quick little check-in to assess what's going on. So the first question is, what need is this behavior meeting? And the best way to think about this is write down the first thing that comes to mind. Don't sit there and stew on it, because usually the first idea that comes to mind is the right one. But then we question ourselves, or we, try and maybe analyze it and make it mean something else, or we don't feel comfortable with what that means. But just allowing yourself to let go of any judgment, and then asking number 2, what am I avoiding feeling right now? And then the third one, what is the pattern really costing me long term? Because you might think that, oh, it's just a few drinks here and there, but it could be the fact that, like this other gentleman the other day, it was costing him his relationship with his kids, as he was hungover and not behaving the way that he wanted to around them. It was costing him his business. He wasn't as far ahead as he would like to have been, and had wasted, a number of dollars, because he was also leading him to gambling when he was doing that. And over a long period of time, that adds up. It adds up in time, it adds up in energy, adds up in connection, which is likely the very things that the person wants, but is seeking through the other behavior or need at that point. And then
Interesting.
then the fourth question is, what's one healthier way I could meet this same need? So none of those basic human needs are bad in and of themselves, but Tony Robbins talks about we can either meet the needs in a positive way or a negative way. So a positive way of variety, like I talked before about smoking, that would be the negative way to get, an adrenaline hit of, oh, well, I don't know what's going to happen. And this is also going to make me feel better because I've got the nicotine rush and all the rest of that. Positive way might be to, text a friend and say, hey, do you want to catch up and go for a hit of tennis or a game of bowling, or something that's going to engage in something that's fun for them, that rather than taking that initial hit of having a cigarette, for example.
Yes. Okay. And what I find really interesting is the fact, like, yeah, that you said that the issue it's causing, or I'm sorry, the thing that they want in life. How do I word this? Like in the drinking example, for example, you said that that person. A person, or let's just say a general example, a person drinking is meaning that they're not able to see their family, but the reason they're drinking is because they're not seeing their family enough, or they don't have that connection. Like, it's a bit of a, in a way, we all do it. We shoot ourselves in the foot. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I want to get healthy. What do I do? And then you just sort of sit there and do nothing because you don't know where to start. But really, by doing nothing and not knowing where to start is causing you to become even more unhealthy because you're not exercising. And then a year passes and you still haven't done any exercise, for example. Like, I know it's not the best example, but yeah, it's interesting, and I think all of us do it. Like, with our money, I see it with clients. Like, I'll look at a situation where somebody's saying, look, I want to do X, Y, and Z, but I don't know where to start. We really want to go on a holiday, for example, and then we'll sit down and we'll work out, okay, well, the big goal is to go on a family holiday, but they're not able to do that because they're spending $1,000 a week on shopping, for example.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the reason they're shopping is because they are trying to get that dopamine kick to be happy and have that feeling of, either freedom or just wanting to just feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
But doing that is stopping them from saving that money to go on that holiday, and I think it's until someone says this to you, we don't, A, we don't realize, but B, it does become a bit of a smack in the face, even if we've heard it already. Because from a partner, for example, like, a partner might say something to someone and but as soon as they hear it from someone else, it's like, yeah, that's a really good idea. My wife does it all the time. Like, I'll come to her with something like, hey, did you know this? She'll be like, I've said that to you like 10 times. I'm like, oh yeah, you have, but it was just hearing it from someone else was like different
Yep.
for some
Yep.
reason.
Mm.
And that's where
Totally.
it helps to have someone like you, I think.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned this last time too, Michael. We're talking about social proof. So oftentimes, this is what we also need, and this is why when we're releasing a behavior or even a belief, because that's generally the behavior is embedded to a deeper belief of who we think we are or who we think we are not, and it's really about hearing it and witnessing other people's transformation or change or stories, or hearing it multiple times. Because if someone just says to you outright, oh, you shouldn't do that because blah blah blah, I first of all immediately get my back up because I'm like, hey, you tell me what to do. This reminds me of my mum. I don't listen to people that tell me what to do, so I'm not going to ignore you. And then secondly, you don't really engage in it because they've just planted what they think that you should hear onto you. So you're not really receptive to it, and so you automatically reject that immediately. So if you're reading things, if looking at podcasts or books or things like that, and you come across it, it kind of starts to loosen its grip a little bit. And you're like, oh, I'm kind of curious. I don't know if I really believe this, but this is different. This is new information. And then you hear someone else say it and you're like, oh, like I've just read that in a book the other day, or I heard that. Or maybe it's the fact that your wife's already told you this multiple times, that then when you hear it from that other person, it validates her because unconsciously you know that you've heard that before. So then hearing it from someone else is that social proof. And then that's what turns the switch on and makes you go, oh, I'm ready to change that now.
Yeah. And on that note, if somebody wanted to talk about these things and to talk to you, what would you say would be the best way for them to get in contact with you and to learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so they could go to my Instagram handle, which is Jayne with a Y Robinson Coach, if they want to check out a bit of my content, or they could email me, Jayne@JR, so the R is for Robinson, coach.com.au, or they could go and visit my website, which is jrcoaching.com.au. And I offer a 30-minute complimentary discovery call too. So even someone's got a problem, they're like, oh, I'm not sure if, someone can help me. I'm always got my door open to have a conversation at the very least.
No, love that. And I'll put your website in the description of this podcast as well, so people can jump onto that and contact you just in case they mistype that URL. As just like last week, as you know, I like to finish my episodes with a dad joke. I've got a different one this time. I was actually going to use the same one and I realized, wait, I used this one last week. But this one's pretty good. I like it. It's, when it comes to, these 6 areas you talked about, I feel like music is music relaxes people and it gives them good perspective. So what kind of music do planets listen to? You won't get this one.
What kind of music? Yeah, no, I was never going to get that.
No, never. It's pretty clever, actually. I never thought of it that way. Neptunes. And I've got another one, actually. Why did everyone enjoy being around the volcano? Because it was just so livable.
It's a shame that they missed me getting yours right last week, because this time, no, I would never have got either.
Oh, that's right. You did too. There you go. I mean, last week was a first for everything, wasn't it? Because not many people have actually gotten the joke, but either way, it's good. And today we've got 2 jokes, so it's, I thought I'd just make it extra special. But Jayne, thank you so much for agreeing to jump on again after last week. But more importantly, thank you so much for your time and sharing your insight. And I really encourage anyone listening to this to contact you. And yeah, I keep doing the work you do. I think it's amazing, and it's having such a massive impact on so many people and people's families' lives.
Thank you, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases, and feel free to share this episode with any friends or family that you think it might benefit. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.